The hospital smelled of antiseptic and rain. Max sat stiffly in the plastic chair, his mother lying motionless before him. Machines beeped steadily, each tone piercing his heart. Outside, the storm lashed at the world, as if mirroring the turmoil inside him. His fingers lightly traced the veins on his mother's fragile hand, hands that once braided his hair, wiped his childhood tears, clapped proudly at every school play. Now, they barely stirred. A young nurse entered quietly, offering him a soft, understanding look. "She spoke a little this morning," the nurse whispered. "She said to tell you, live your life like it's made of glass. Precious, fleeting." Max's breath caught. A sharp, invisible knife twisted inside his chest. Those words, so small, cracked open something massive inside him. Max wasn't always this hollow. As a boy, he'd raced barefoot through meadows, dirt under his nails, dreams bigger than the skies above. He wanted to be an artist, a musician, a creator of something beautiful. But life had its own lessons. His best friend was taken from him in a reckless accident during their college years, and grief wrapped itself around Max like heavy chains. Fearful of more loss, he chose safety over passion. His best friend was taken from him in a reckless accident during their college years, and grief wrapped itself around Max like heavy chains. Fearful of more loss, he chose safety over passion. Degree. Stable job. Promotions. Overtime. Yet, every step he climbed up the corporate ladder, he felt more disconnected from himself. His days blurred into meetings and meaningless tasks, his nights into restless sleep. And now, at this very moment, he realized the devastating truth: he had sacrificed living for mere surviving. That night, Max found himself driving aimlessly, the rain blurring the city into a watercolor of sadness. His hands clenched the wheel tighter and tighter until, with a sudden cry, he veered into an empty parking lot and let the tears flow. Great, gasping sobs that racked his body. He cried for himself, for his friend, for his mother, for every piece of himself he had abandoned along the way. And somewhere between the broken sobs, he made a decision. A terrifying, reckless, thrilling decision: he would start living now. Not tomorrow. Now. The very next morning, Max walked into his gray cubicle-lined office, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the smell of burnt coffee in the air. Heart pounding, he dropped a crisp white envelope, his resignation letter, on his boss's desk. His boss stared up, incredulous. "You're making a mistake," he said flatly. Max smiled a real, heartborn smile and replied, "Maybe. But I'd rather make a mistake chasing my soul than spend another year running from it." Life after quitting wasn't romantic at first. It was brutal. Humbling. Max downsized to a tiny, creaky studio apartment. He sold his car, used public buses, lived frugally. He took on odd jobs, walking dogs in the mornings, tutoring kids in the evenings, playing his guitar at subway stations late at night. Some old friends faded away, not understanding this new Max. Some mocked him quietly. But every time he felt the sting of doubt, he remembered his mother's voice, precious and fleeting. He remembered the way she had smiled at him even in her pain. One evening, after another exhausting but fulfilling day, Max played at a tiny local cafe's open mic night. His guitar was scratched, his jeans torn, but his music poured out of him, honest and raw. That night, in the front row sat Lily, wild curls, ink-stained fingers, and a smile like sunrise. She clapped loudest when he finished, and afterwards, introduced herself with fearless joy. She was an artist too, not the kind hung in fancy galleries, but the kind who painted murals on crumbling walls and sketched dreams into napkins. They fell into friendship, then into love, a love that was messy, real, unfiltered. Lily taught Max to see the beauty in imperfections. Together, they built a small life, shared art studios, late-night talks, painting on weekends, music in parks. No big houses. No expensive vacations. Just deep, soul-rooted living. Max began teaching guitar to children who came from broken homes, schools that had given up on them. He saw firsthand how belief could transform a shy, trembling child into someone who could stand tall with a guitar in hand. Every success, every breakthrough, filled Max with a quiet, profound happiness he had never known before. Years later, when Max stood by his mother's grave, surrounded by a field of students, friends, and loved ones, each of them carrying a part of his journey, he realized he hadn't failed. He had finally lived. Not perfectly. But fully. He looked at Lily, squeezed her hand, and smiled through tears. She taught me, he said aloud, voice breaking, that life is made of glass. It's meant to be lived, not hoarded. Cherished. Not wasted. Broken sometimes, yes. But always, always beautiful. And under the fading sun, Max knew happiness was never a destination. It was every moment he chose to be alive.